Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Bay Trail Confidential. I'm thrilled to have so many people joining us tonight, and we've got a great show planned. I've got some special guests. Give me a second to share my screen. And I do have to admit, I screwed up that URL I just put in the chat for the show notes, so I'll get that right in a second. So don't worry if you clicked on that and you didn't get anything. But let's get our slides up, and I think we'll have. I want to make sure everyone knows how to get to the web page, because we're going to have some pretty cool links for you guys to see on this show. Articles about my guests, some other cool stuff. So speaking of, well, let's talk about the poll first. We've got folks joining from all over the Bay Area. Should end the poll. I'm going to give you like 10 seconds to finish the poll, and then I'll report back to you on who has joined. And I keep forgetting to put running in as an activity for being on. We see lots of people running, so we really should add that, and I will. I just need to be reminded. But I'm going to share these results with you guys. So yeah, we've got folks from a lot of people in the East Bay, and a lot of these walkers that we're going to be talking to are in the East Bay, but also folks in San Francisco, the Peninsula. Not so many in the North or the South Bay. We got to work on that. And a lot of you like hiking, biking, and I think the other might be running, that we need to add to that. And we are always trying to encourage you to visit more places on the Bay Trail. That's kind of one of the reasons behind this program, I think, is to encourage you to do that. And a lot of Taqueria enthusiasm. We're going to be talking about that. So I am joined by my co-host, Ethel Kanapka. Ethel, how are you tonight?
I'm great. I'm excited tonight. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. It's going to be a great show, but it's so different. And I think that's a piece of why it's going to be extra great tonight.
Yeah, it is. And I don't think Lee was able to join us, but we have some special guests. So we have Sally Dinwoodie, Barbara Christianson, Aleta George, Annette Williams from this Bay Trail walking group that we're going to be hearing from. So how are you guys doing tonight? Great to have you. And we have
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
And we have a couple other folks who might join later. These are long distance bicyclists, and they may be out on the trail even as we speak. Do want to say we are hosted by San Francisco City Guides. This is a nonprofit that's been doing walking tours since 1978. If some of you donated when you got your ticket for this, we really appreciate that. And there's also a link here that you could use to make donations if you would like. Here's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to do some Bay Trail updates, a couple of interesting pieces of news to share. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the walk around the Bay that my guests did. And then we're going to talk about the bike ride I just mentioned a few minutes ago. And then I have a new way to get all the way around the Bay that I want to spring on you guys. We will have our Taqueria and Brewery contests. We're going to pick someone who submitted the names of taquerias and breweries to give them a set of Bay Trail map cards. And then at the end, we'll have time for your questions and comments. We always introduce our guests by showing their Bay Trail cred, where they have been on the Bay Trail, not in cars or, either on a bike, on foot, and a kayak, just, under their own power. And we are in the presence of Bay Trail cred giants tonight, because these guys have literally been everywhere, including places I haven't been. So I had declared myself 100% Bay Trail cred, and I really can't say that anymore after having talked to these guys. We're going to hear more about that in a minute. The two bicyclists, this is just something they've done in the last few days. They did a bike ride around San Francisco and then went down the East Bay to San Jose, and now they're like heading for Texas, I think. Ethel, your Bay Trail cred hasn't changed too much yet.
No, not yet, but got plans for it, especially after tonight.
Yeah, and for next month's show is going to be about the Middle Harbor shoreline, right? And you're definitely going to want to be checking that place out. So we'll add that. Lee, he's not with us, but this is his Bay Trail cred. And this is what I thought was impressive Bay Trail cred, but apparently not anymore. The updates, real quick, a couple pieces of news that caught my eye. There's going to be a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit for bicyclists on the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's going to be enforced by the CHP. I think there'll be a hefty fine if you get caught going faster than that. And well, folks in chat, you're welcome to share your thoughts on that. I'll tell you mine, which is, as a bicyclist, I think this is a good idea. I want the Bay Trail to be safe for everyone. And I think 15 miles an hour on the bridge on the east side, which is shared by both walkers, cyclists, maybe people with mobility devices, it seems like a reasonable thing to me. Ethel, you asked me the question, how do you know if you're going 15 miles an hour? And it's really your responsibility to know, either get a speedometer or keep your speed down.
Yeah.
Those are my 2 cents on that.
It's going to be interesting to see how many bicyclists contest that ticket in court.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how the CHP is going to apprehend people, but I just think we should voluntarily, in a place like this that has a lot of people around, I just want to make the Bay Trail comfortable for everybody. That's a core principle of this show.
For sure.
Here's some really good news. There's going to be a new bike pedestrian bridge in Emeryville, connecting Bay Street to Horton Street, which Horton Street's a pretty safe street these days to bike on. And this will get you very close to the entry point for the Bay Trail that takes you to the Bay Bridge. So this hasn't opened yet, but I've been told it's going to open by the end of the year. And it's a pretty nice looking bridge too. So I think folks are going to want to check that out. So those are my pieces of news, but let's get to the main topic here. A very long walk around the Bay. And again, I'm joined by Sally, Barb, Annette, and Aleta from let me ask first, what do you guys call your group? Do you just call yourselves the Bay Trail Walking Group?
Bay Trail Adventures.
Bay Trail Adventures. So
BTA.
This is what these guys have done. They have been walking the Bay Trail for the last 4 years. They started here in Emeryville, and these colors show how far they got every year. We'll find out in a second, what motivated them to do this and what their walking principles were. In fact, let me ask you that, Sally. So how did you get the idea to walk all the way around the Bay?
Well, it's always been part of my family's culture to walk in the Bay. We live very close to the Bay Trail here in El Cerrito, Richmond. And Barb and I and a couple other friends have been walking it first when we were pregnant with our first kids, then with our toddlers. We spent a lot of holidays going to the Bay Trail. We knew that they were making it all around the Bay. And we used to talk just kind of idly about, oh, wouldn't this be fun if we did this someday? And years went by and we just kept chatting about it here and there. And then Barb had just finished doing her project of 50 marathons in 50 states. And I was recovering from back surgery, my back had been pretty bad and I was pretty immobilized for quite a few years. And I was feeling strong again. And she said, this would be the time to do it. Let's do it. So we did.
And it was 2017 when you guys started, right?
Yes.
And you just finished a few months ago. And you guys have guidelines that this isn't just go on the Bay Trail where they say it's been completed. And Barb, why don't you tell us all what your guidelines were for getting around the Bay?
Sure. Well, first of all, Sally and our main goals were to first have fun. It's an adventure. And second, we wanted to structure the walk so that it was logistically really simple and easy. So we came up with 3 guidelines. One is to walk as close to the Bay as possible. The second one is continually move forward. So sometimes there's a loop or an out and back, but just to keep moving forward. And this third one is no shortcuts all the way around the Bay, as far as we could go. And these guidelines really helped. When we were trying to navigate in real time, which way to go. Because as most people know who are listening to this, 70% of of the Bay Trail is completed, but 30% isn't, and that's 150 miles. So of our journey. So this was really, that was a real challenging part, and these guidelines really helped. The way we set it up, once we set our date, May of 2017 to start, we decided to walk the first Sunday of every month at 8:00 a.m. So I sent, Rodney, do you want to put the camera on, or does that matter?
The camera,
You're on now.
you are
Okay.
on.
All right. I sent an email to the group with the starting point, which was where we ended up the prior month. And there was no RSVP or anything. We just walked as far as we felt like going, and then we Ubered back to our cars, and then we usually went out to lunch afterwards. It was kind of a social thing too. And I think as we did this, another guideline kind of evolved over time, which was that if anybody wanted to stop and check out anything, an old building, a coffee shop, a farmer's market, whatever, talk to fellow travelers, then we were very accommodating. So, really cool and just exploring. And we didn't have any set destination, how far we wanted to go, or a timeline. We could do it in 4 years or 5 years. We could go till noon or till 3, whatever we wanted to do. So, of course, when COVID came, we had to do a little more planning because we then had to carpool. But I just want to stress that anybody who's listening to this can do it. It's very doable.
Yeah,
That's how we set it up.
these pictures I'm showing you are actually in chronologic order. So kind of showing different parts of the bay. And it's fun for me because I do recognize almost all of these places, but you guys got to go to some places that I've only dreamed of going because of those guidelines. And, this is not like, I'm a bicyclist, and this is like, you're going to, going on foot is a lot slower than going on a bike. But Annette, I think you wanted to tell us about some of the advantages of going by foot. So tell us about that.
So I think the main thing is it's more intimate, like Barb was kind of explaining, you get to see everything, you're going slow enough that you see what's there along the way. There were things, we found some funny things, like we found a Buddha head in one place. It was like I think Sally actually has it, where, it just happened to be there on the side of the trail, and we stopped. We found, Adina and I one day found photo albums. And there was like, someone had dumped stuff, and we don't know how it got there, but of like a person's whole life story was kind of out there on the road. So things like that you wouldn't have expected. But also, I kind of think of it as, if you fly, like say you want to go to Colorado, you fly to Colorado, that's one thing. If you drive there, you have a much better understanding of here to there. And walking the bay gave us this ability, this understanding of the bay that we wouldn't have gotten bicycling or obviously not driving. So it just felt like a really intimate way to get to know this place that's our home.
Yeah, I do think like the slower you go, the richer the experience is going to be. And as a bicyclist, we are going a lot slower than the cars, and we do have a much richer experience than the people driving by all these places. But yeah, I definitely see like what you guys were doing, and then I'm going to go back to these pictures. So this is kind of fun. These guys would try to go places that weren't necessarily, these were not completed sections of the Bay Trail, shall we say. And remember, Lee's not on the call, so the adults are not in the room to admonish us here.
That's
but
good.
You guys did go to some places that I've thought of going. Of course, having the bike also prevents me from entering some of these places. But it just seems like you have seen some pretty neat places in the Bay. Now let me ask, like, what were some of the biggest surprises of the walk? And I'll start with you, Sally. Like what experiences or surprises did you encounter?
How diverse the Bay is, how similar and diverse at the same time it is, both in environment and in people, and just how it was always interesting. You'd think the whole Bay, after 500 miles, it would get boring. It was never boring. There was always something new and something interesting, and microclimates that you didn't expect. And areas that I'd never been to that were much more beautiful than I ever thought. It was just always changing.
This is something we say again and again on the show, is like, you may think that you know the Bay Trail because you know the Bay Trail near you. But when you go to these other places, you realize, no, you really don't.
Yeah.
Aleta, what were some of the biggest surprises for you going around the Bay? And tell us your story. I want to get to the, you wrote 2 articles about this group, and you started out as a journalist covering this. Tell us about that.
I love seeing all these pictures. I wish I would have been done the whole walk with them, but I was covering a story when they were halfway. And so I walked across the Golden Gate Bridge and through San Francisco with them. And I enjoyed being with them so much that I asked to be put on their list and continue walking with them. And so I probably walked about 8 or 10 of the segments. And I wrote about them when they were halfway for Estuary News, and then wrote about the finish again for the Bay Area Monitor. And I think there's a picture right there. One of my favorite things, surprises on the Bay Trail, was all the art, whether it was the large installations like this picture, or when we were in the Posey Tube off of Alameda. I mean, going from Alameda to Oakland, there was poetry written all along inside the tube in the very loud tube. And then also there was a section in southern Alameda where all the front yard art, there were all these houses who had this wonderful front yard art. And we just saw art everywhere in Alameda and on the Oakland waterfront and so many other places. And I love that about it.
Yeah, it's a diverse array of art. Like here we see some graffiti, but then you'll see commissioned art. You'll see the Albany Bulb is something we talked about a couple months ago, is almost like this uncurated art museum.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, somebody asked in chat, and I'm interested too, with the first picture with the huge sculpture, where was that?
It's Bayview Hunters Point.
Oh, okay.
The one that that she was pointing out, that one.
Yeah, this one.
At the end of, right above, there's a later picture where you can kind of see this one. It's right near there.
Oh, wow.
So it's just down the hill from that, and it's at the end of Bayview Hunters Point, looking out over Hunters Point.
There's a park there too called Heron Park, right?
Beautiful.
There?
Yeah, Heron Park
beautiful
is
park.
before there, which is another great place to check
That's
out.
a gorgeous park. Yeah.
All around there,
Heron's
there's some
Head?
really, I highly
yeah.
recommend going in that area. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and the fun thing for me seeing these photos is just it brings back a lot of my memories. And this is the big takeaway: is if you go all the way around the Bay, you will know all these places. So Barb, you also wanted to, you had some interesting surprises you wanted to share from your experience.
Well, actually, I kind of agree with what Sally said, that that there were surprises really every section of the walk. I kept a journal during the 46 months we were doing this, and I wrote down at the end of every walk, I asked everybody, what are some of the top observations or impressions people had for the walk, and there was always plenty of things to write about. So just as one example, I have family in the South Bay, and I drive up and down Highway 880 all the time, and I've never stopped to check out the Bay. So during that section of the Bay around Hayward and so forth, we discovered there's a tidal restoration project, and that project includes cows right there next to the 880 freeway, where they eat. This is something you couldn't see on a bike, Rodney. We weren't even sure we were supposed to be there, but you eat non-native plants. They fertilize the land. It's helped with the restoration, but it meant they had to build fences around to keep the cattle in it, and they had to have these fences, these things you climb over, like a bridge you have to climb over, and so I didn't really expect to have to go climbing over those structures, and we weren't even sure if we'd be able to get out the other side. And also we saw amazing salt ponds, which I think you can see from the air, but it's very different to be right in it, where they're red and pink and yellow and orange, and it's the algae that causes that color, but it creates, at one point we saw these huge piles of salt. And I was wondering about that. So I went home and looked it up. And it turns out that area, there used to be dozens of salt producers in that area. Now there's only one producer. And that producer makes 500,000 tons of sea salt a year. And it's right there in Hayward. And there's big piles. That was hard to get around. But it's kind of interesting to come across that unexpectedly.
Yeah. Sally, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just thought of something really surprising was when we were walking between Richmond and Pinole, we ran into cowboys. Who knew there were cowboys right here in Richmond?
Were they with the goats?
No, they were on horses in a field.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The guy with the goats was on an ATV, remember? I think that was the day
That's
you were with us.
And Annette, you also had some surprises from your.
So I guess one of the things that I didn't expect was that one of the parts that I really enjoyed was the parts that weren't finished. Going through the neighborhoods, seeing the places where people were living, seeing their yards and their gardens. And, one neighborhood would have huge trucks in like every driveway, just the differences between the neighborhoods. And, all of these people lived near the bay, but it was just intriguing to see where people were living and how they were living. And I think one of the things that was, part of that was one day we were hiking, through the area between Crockett, going along that part. And we came down off this hill. We'd gone through all these grasslands. We came down off this hill and a guy had a coffee cup and we were like, oh, we're in the middle of nowhere and there's coffee. And he said, oh, you just go down there. We went down there and it was Port Costa, and I had never been to Port Costa. And I highly recommend everybody should go to Port Costa and just check it out, because it's like going back 50 years and this, beautiful old hotel and coffee shop. And we had coffee there. There's a lot of history. That's one of the things about the Bay too. I mean, I guess I knew that, but I think we learned a lot. And our co-walker, Adina, did a lot of research sometimes afterwards. We'd find something and there was this railroad track in Napa, and she found that a train went off into the Napa River, and she got, information and sent it to us. So we learned things we never would have learned.
Yeah, that's such an education about our region. So much we don't know. And I was asking you guys about your surprises doing this, but I did get to do one segment with you. And I thought, I was looking forward to walking with you guys, but I thought, I pretty much know the whole Bay Trail. I've been obsessed with it for, I don't know, last year and a half, but absolutely, I got really interesting experiences. We went from the Middle Harbor shoreline, which we're going to talk about next month, walking to Emeryville in an area that I'd visited many times, but because I was on foot, we went very close to the train lines, and it was really fun to watch the kind of the port trains being loaded up and moving around. And then we saw where the BART tube emerges in the East Bay, which I'd never seen before. Even though I've ridden BART, I don't know how many thousands of times have I taken BART and been through that area, but I'd never seen it from that angle. So it's just like, it is like real, you do want to do this on foot if you can.
Rodney, there's one comment in here I think is really important to point out, and that is about the birds, which we haven't talked about yet. And that was one of the unifying things I would say about the Bay. We saw birds, I would imagine almost every single hike. Maybe there are a couple that we didn't, but just amazing egrets and pelicans and, and I'm sure there are many probably on this call who know so much more about birds than I did. But, the walking part, we got to see a bird eating a fish, pulling one out of the water. We got to, we stopped in Napa and heard just cacophony of birds in some eucalyptus trees. And Jana, who's one of our fellow walkers who's on here, was just saying, just how important that was to the experience.
Yeah, it's a great point to raise right now, because this is the kind of the heart of the migratory season. And, there's you'll see a lot out there right now, but really all times of the year, you're going to see birds doing interesting things. This has been a theme on this show that my wife is a birder and I really haven't been, but now I am, because you can't not be if you're going to be spending time near the Bay.
One other quick thing, Aleta, tell them about the bat ray you saw. I
That's
thought
what I wanted to say, that I can't remember where that was. It was in the South Bay somewhere, and we were walking along the trail talking, and there was a canal on the side, and we looked over and there was a bat ray swimming along in the same direction that we were swimming, and it was probably not 4 feet from us.
it was near that radio station place. I can't, the radio tower. Do you remember that? It was right before that radio tower. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway.
I don't remember. I just know that we had Thai food for lunch that day. That's what I remember. And there were houses on the right, and yeah, it does meld together. But that bat ray was fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds like a great experience. Sally, you have something you want to add?
When Annette was talking about the going slow walking, the sound just made me realize that's one thing that I think is an advantage to walking, is that that there's this whole dimension of sound. And I took a lot of pictures, but I always wished that I could capture the sounds and the smells, because those are the things that when you're going slow that your senses can pick up more.
Yeah, it's it's very different from being in a car and not really being exposed to all that. So what are the takeaways from your experience? Like, what ideas do you have to inspire other people to try to circumnavigate the Bay? Anyone in the group who wants to jump in first?
Well, I think that, we, like Barb said, we didn't have a particular timeline or even how much we would do in a day. It was more just, let's do this. And if we do 2 miles, great. If we do 10 miles, great. If it takes us 2 years, fine. If it takes us 10 years, fine. We never do it. It just was so relaxed and so there was a goal to do it every Sunday, but or every once a month on Sundays, but there was no, like, it had to be strict like this or this. And it made it so easy. Anybody could do it. It's particularly in COVID, it was so important. It was
I love that anybody can do it. Anybody can do it, but you guys are the only ones who I know of who have done it in this way. You've kind of, carved out your own niche, but hopefully others will want to follow in your footsteps.
Rodney, can I mention something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the other thing that was helpful was doing it on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. So we were able, few of us live in the East Bay, but one of our walkers lives in Santa Rosa. For the most part, we could get to where we were starting in about an hour. Obviously coming from Santa Rosa, that wasn't true for San Jose, but, and there wasn't traffic. So, to get there in the mornings, we would carpool together often. That was helpful. And I think, adding just a little bit at a time, it was easy. Like Sally said, it was very easy, and when you look back, you're kind of amazed. And the most kind of incredible thing is to be anywhere in the Bay. Like, I can be on top of Mount Tam or Mount Diablo, and I can look down and I'm like, we have walked that entire thing. And it's really cool because you understand this place that we live in a much better way than we would have if we hadn't done that. And it connects us to this place that's where we live and our home.
I feel it gives us a sense of ownership. And it makes us,
and care, right?
A sense of place.
Yeah, and it makes you realize, like, we are the Bay Area because we have this big bay in the middle of our area. And if we didn't, it would be a very different place. Others, who else wants to jump in?
I see a question about ride sharing.
A question about ride sharing?
Ride sharing, yeah. And I just want to say that it was really amazing that most Uber drivers were really okay about dogs and, going a short distance. And we had one Uber driver that just took us, this very short distance. And, they were all very amenable. And my sister left her iPhone in the car in one place and she came back and gave it to us. And we only had one kind of mean Uber driver who kind of gave us a scowl, but we didn't have any problem with ride sharing. And then of course, after COVID, we started carpooling. So that really wasn't a problem. And it really made it much more spontaneous. We couldn't have done it before Uber because we could have stopped wherever we wanted to stop and go back to where we started again. We could have done it without having Uber.
Yeah,
What
it's
about
nice.
bathrooming? Was that a challenge, finding the bathrooms along the way?
Not really.
Uh-uh.
We had to make do.
Okay.
Creative. Rodney, one of the things that
I read between
Okay,
those lines.
Aleta, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say one of the things that just getting out on the Bay Trail anywhere, but the more sections that you do, you start seeing the Bay Trail as a greater whole. And so each of the little sections don't really feel that separate. You have a sense of the whole thing. So it's even hard to decide which is your favorite section, because even your favorite section is a part of the whole thing. And so just viewing it in that entire way is something that I got out of walking.
So
With this
it's
group.
like having a favorite child, I suppose.
Yeah.
It depends on the day.
Yeah.
One other thought I had, it's also just, gosh, it went in and out of my head. It was related to what our leader was saying. Sorry.
Well, Ethel, I want you to you kind of share with me at the start of the show some thoughts like you have your takeaway from all this.
Yeah, I mean, last night when we were kind of doing a dry run, I went to bed thinking about what a great thing you gals did. And when I think about the people in my life, the women in my life, that we're always talking about, oh, we're going to get together, we're going to do this, and then we never do, right? But planning to say we're going to meet once a month, we're going to walk, we're going to be healthy, we're going to get some exercise, we're going to reserve that time for ourselves, and also walk the trail and have this intimate experience with our environment. I just picked up the phone today and called a couple of my friends that, we're always talking about getting together, and said, hey, I got this great idea. And no pressure, right? That's the thing. I mean, for me, that was like a real selling point. There's no pressure. I love your guidelines. And, sometimes I'm thinking maybe you walked 5 miles. Sometimes maybe you only walked 1, but you were together and you were, enjoying each other and our space. And I'm really inspired. And I think it's going to help me get some Bay Area
Yeah.
cred up there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think this could be just what you need, Ethel.
Yeah, well, it could be, because I usually just walk what we're going to be talking about, but you've really inspired me. So thank you very much for doing what you did and making me realize that, it doesn't have to be done in 2 months. It can be 4 years, just do it, as you say, right? So thank you.
Yeah, it's very inspirational. I had such a good time walking with the group. And Aleta, we mentioned that you wrote 2 articles about their adventures, and I've got they're both on the web. And if you go to the show page, the show notes for this show, you get that back there. You do have links to both of those articles. So if you want to, Aleta wrote a great piece wrote 2 good pieces about these guys, and I would highly recommend them. Any other last thoughts on this before we move on? Let me ask, what are you guys going to do next? Is there another adventure planned?
Always.
Yes.
I heard something about doing some of the spurs, right?
I want to do the Ridge Trail.
Yeah, Ridge Trail. We're also continuing a once a month on Sunday, just kind of filling in on the out and backs that we missed, or because we had, because of our guidelines. And we're thinking about maybe going to all the BART stations and walking around and checking out what taco places or food places are nearby. And so, you heard of Eat, Pray, Love. We're thinking of BART, Walk, Eat. So, by the way, we had a lot of snacks on our trip. I think that really made it. Especially we had a woman, Diane, who's on the call today, who, is a caterer, and that was always great when Diane came.
Mm.
And,
And,
and one
I-
thing we didn't mention were the dogs. Like my dog Mookie did most of the whole thing, and so did Wag, Michelle's dog. And that was fun to have them along.
There's
And
one.
And
they were
Scooby
part
came
of it.
too.
Scooby
Scooby came a
sometimes
lot,
too.
and we had
There's
other.
Wag, there's
we had-
Mookie.
And then we also had Jana's dog, and over the times we had quite a few.
And then this is the grand finale that I got to do with these guys. That was really fun.
We ended in the parking lot in Emeryville. Pretty
Yes.
exciting, huh?
Yep, Trader Joe's. We're going to move on, but we'll at the bottom of the show when we wrap up, we'll continue, and everyone, other members of the walking group will be able to unmute and share their thoughts. And anyone who has questions for them, we can go into more detail on your experiences. I wanted to talk about another kind of experience that's going on right now. I was hoping these guys would be able to join, but I had a feeling they wouldn't be. There's two men who have been biking on a solar-powered e-bike all the way across the United States to raise awareness about carbon emissions and better forms of transportation. It's called the Sun Pedal Ride. This is what they started in Winston-Salem, and I think they've been going for over 100 days now. And they're going to wind up in Texas, but they did go through the Bay Area just a few days ago. This is what the bike looks like. I don't know if 50 times 2 watts is a lot or not. I know that when I tried to meet up with them, their phones weren't charged. So take that with some advisement. But this is what they did. They went down the Bay Trail, and I kind of advised them on taking this route. And I was hoping to meet up with them, but I wasn't really. We just did not rendezvous. This is another. They used the ferries and got over to San Francisco, went over the Golden Gate Bridge. So this hence is their Bay Trail cred. And maybe they'll be joining later and we can ask them some questions. But the funny thing is, and here's their website. If you want to learn more about them, you can go to thesunpedalride.com. And they've got all kinds of great information there. It's pretty interesting bike to be going across on. But I wanted to, when I was trying to meet up with them, I was kind of, I got a whole new idea for going all the way around the bay that I wanted to share with this group. As you guys know, I like going around on my bike. I did do a circumnavigation of the bay by bike in August. Took me 6 days of riding, and I had 1 day off. But this is my new way around the bay. And what it is bikes and public transportation. And I figured out that you could go all the way around the bay using both. I think someone needs to maybe mute. I'm hearing some outside noise. You could do this in 1 day. And here is what I had in mind. So you would be biking to there's a bus from El Cerrito del Norte. You could go up to Napa. Then you would need to ride from Napa to Petaluma. That's about 31 miles. And then you could take the SMART train down to Larkspur and then ride another 20 miles to San Francisco, get on Caltrain there and ride that down to San Jose, and then go between the Caltrain station and the BART by bike, and then take BART back up. And I have to say, I was inspired by this to do this because I was on Caltrain riding down to San Jose, and I thought, this is actually a pretty fun thing to be riding on a train, seeing the Bay Area that way. And then kind of fun to get off the train and continue on your bike. So I'm just wondering if there's others out there who would be interested in doing something like this with me at some point. The people who would do this would need to be experienced and capable of riding on the shoulder of California Highway 116, which does have high-speed traffic. It is considered a bike lane, and it has rumble strips. So the cars at least know when they're coming into the shoulder, but that's the sort of thing you need to be comfortable doing. I would suggest an average of 10 miles an hour, including brakes. Obviously, this wouldn't be happening if COVID situation gets a lot worse, but assuming it doesn't, we could do this. And then I wouldn't want to do this unless there was ample daylight. So I'm thinking during daylight savings time. So if anyone's interested, let me know. I think we could set the all-time world record for circumnavigating the bay on a non-electric bike with public transit. And
What a great idea.
it seems like it would be fun for me. I loved my bike ride around the bay. Other thoughts? You probably have to be a little bit of a bike nut to want to do this, but I know that there are other bike nuts out there. And so if you are interested, send me an email and we'll talk about it. Because I want to do this and talk about it on the show. But now we're going to move on to very important subject, the Taqueria and Brewery map card contest. And you guys who registered knew that I kind of threw the gauntlet down, said I want to identify all the taquerias and breweries within a mile of the Bay Trail. And this is what we've gotten so far. These are the taquerias that have been identified. And this is an impressive number, but I think we could find a lot more. So I don't think we're done identifying taquerias yet. And then these are the breweries around the Bay. I was shocked how many breweries there are. In fact, for a while there, the list was, we had more breweries than taquerias, which I would not have expected. I did get some suggestions, and I kept everything in the spreadsheet for the contest, but I've decided there are some criteria for what constitutes a taqueria. And I think if you're a taqueria, you should have soft tacos on the menu, I think. The majority of the food should be Mexican. So a place that serves tacos, even if they're really good tacos, if they serve a lot of other things, I'm not considering them a taqueria.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Ethel. I mean, I feel like I'm like a Supreme Court of one when it comes to these things, but I'm the ultimate consumer of all this. Also, I like hearing Spanish spoken in these places. I feel like it should be a place where if you'd like to order in Spanish, you could. And so for me, both brick and mortar and taco trucks qualify. And then I was thinking about breweries, and if you're calling yourself a brewery, you should make beer. You must make beer. You could make beer and just sell the beer. Like, I guess Trimmer Pills, maybe they do have a place where they serve you beer, but I like their beer. And it's so cool that it's made within a mile of the Bay Trail. And we're not just talking about bars and pubs, we're really talking about places that make beer. And we are going to award a set of Bay Trail map cards, courtesy of Serena of the Bay Trail Project. And every month I ask Serena to pick a favorite place. We call it a Serena selection. And this month she's picking the Loch Lomond Marina, which is near San Rafael. Really nice place. Let me ask the walking group, what did you guys encounter this and what did you think of it?
Yeah, I think we kind of went by it pretty quickly, but I grew up in Marin, so I know Loch Lomond from that. But do you guys remember much? I think it might have been raining that day too.
Yeah.
It's in San Rafael, past that brickyard before you get into where Montecito Shopping Center is and San Rafael High School, correct?
Okay, I remember walking by it, but it didn't register as.
We didn't go into the marina.
We didn't go into it. Yeah.
You know what it makes me think is you see a lot of marinas as you go around the Bay, and I know you guys, and I would love to have like a contest to pick like which is the most charming marina.
There are some beautiful
I have
ones.
to say Tiburon was pretty nice.
Up there by Benicia. What's that one by Benicia? Was really pretty.
That was nice too. Yeah.
Benicia I like because they've got some wonderful art by Robert Arneson, who's one of my favorites.
Yes.
And across the Brooklyn Basin.
There were some really funky ones too.
Yes.
And someone correct. I said Robert. Is it Richard Arneson?
No, it's a Robert Arneson.
It is Robert. Good. Okay. I didn't want to blow that.
I didn't walk this part with you guys, but I did make a special trip out there because I wanted to get a closer look at the Marin Islands. So I drove out there one day and I walked on that perimeter and I brought my binoculars.
Oh, these islands here. Yeah,
because I wanted to get a closer look at the Marin Islands, and I, didn't have a boat. So I walked that whole marina. It was a beautiful walk. And also you can get a sense of the San Rafael Canal that goes in there. Because
Mhm.
that area has changed a lot historically. So it's kind of a fun place to go out and look at.
So, okay, I'm starting to realize we need to do a show about this area, especially those islands. And I've seen Penny
And what
Wells
about
and
that
the
quarry? Don't forget that quarry.
quarry.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, the
Oh,
quarry.
yeah.
we'll get to that at the end of the show. I want to talk. I want hear some more of your stories actually, because I know there's a couple of pretty interesting ones that we haven't even gotten to. But we need to give out this set of Bay Trail map cards, which you can actually, if you don't win them and you want to order some, you can go to the baytrail.org website, and there's links to places where you can order them. I think they're around, I'm not gonna say how much they are because they're priceless. And someone's going to win them, so I don't want to ruin that. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. We're going to use a random number generator to pick a number, and then it's going to be used to pick the winner off the spreadsheet of someone who entered one of these breweries or taquerias. So every time you gave me a new brewery or taqueria, you got another chance to win these Bay Trail map cards. So
There they
to do
I have
that, you've got yours. I've got to switch when I'm sharing to my, let me give me a second here, get to my random number generator. This is very, very high tech what we're doing here. Hold on. Having a Zoom moment here as we find the random number generator, and I am going to share that with you. Here it is. Okay, so we're basically picking a number between 2 and 85. If I submitted several entries, and if it's me, then we are going to pick someone else. I cannot win. But I asked Ethel to pick a number between 1 and 5, and that's how many times I'm going to refresh the generator to get a fresh number. What's the number, Ethel?
2.
2. 1, 2. So we're going for 52 on the spreadsheet. And I think that's the spreadsheet right there. Number 52 is going to be David Renaud, who submitted quite a few entries. And I really wanted you to win, David, because I appreciate, this is so valuable having all these businesses identified now. So we are going to
Can
give
you tell people where to find them? Because that was one of the questions in the chat.
Yeah, I'll go back. Let's go back to the slide deck because I do have. Okay, so you can, if you would like to buy the maps, you can go to
It was
baytrail.org.
your list. They wanted to know how to get to the Taqueria list.
Oh, the Taqueria list.
Yeah.
I will put that, and there's going to be an email that goes out for everybody who's registered. Actually, you know what? I'll put it in chat right now. Give me a second, because that is kind of cool. So here's what we're going to do. So right now we have 40 breweries and 41 taquerias. So taquerias have a very narrow lead. But we're going to do this contest again because I want more. So every new entry that's made after tonight's show is going to get you a chance to win another set of Bay Trail map cards. And David, you could even win twice, and I would be totally fine with that. And I just want to make it clear that taco trucks that park in the same location at least 4 days a week are eligible. I just need a street address that's closest to where they're parked. And it is okay to list multiple locations for the same business so long as they're within a mile of the Bay Trail. So let's see, I was going to, give me a second, go into chat, give you guys the list. It's all on my website. The website needs I need to probably redo the website to make all the Bay Trail information easier to find. And that's something that's going to happen in the future. How about that for a vague statement? Yeah, that'll do it. That link will get you the current list of breweries and taquerias. And then we will not just keep doing this contest over and over. We're going to then move on to rating taquerias and breweries. And I've been thinking about how to do that. And that's going to be coming soon. I'm not going to wait until the January show to launch that. There's going to be a form that's on the website that you can go and use to identify, to rate these businesses. And I probably am not going to figure out the fairest way to rate them, but basically, I think if anybody says they like a taqueria, that ought to be valuable information for all of us. And I, by the way, plan to eat at every single one of these taquerias.
So Rodney, this is Barb. Somebody suggested in chat about adding winery tasting rooms. And I think that's a great idea. We actually ran across some wineries on our bait trail walk, adventure walk.
It's a great idea. Let's tackle this first. But actually, okay, that I love ideas like that. And what we really want to do with our website is compile all this information. And really, actually, there's no reason why we couldn't start gathering the wineries on the Bay Trail too. So on second thought, I think we will start pushing forward on all these things. And I may need a little help because especially someone who's really good with like Google My Maps. But we want to figure out a way to make this as useful as possible for people going on the Bay Trail.
And did you see the question about, is it as the crow flies a mile or as streets go a
It's
mile?
got to be like how you would walk. I guess use like Google or Apple Maps in walking. I want it to be a mile that you could walk. So it's not the way the crows fly. It's the way, because the idea is that people are on the Bay Trail and they want to go to these places. We got to make it easy for people on foot. So I want it to be recognized by this group that I am not, my bias towards bicyclists is on hold for this. I'm really trying to make these places walkable.
Yay!
See, and the dog is
our objective.
Yes.
That was Mookie. Mookie, she's the queen.
So Mookie appreciates that idea that they're within a mile of the Bay Trail. And I actually on the forum I asked I'm going to actually have a designation for ones that are half a mile from the Bay Trail. So we'll give you a sense of half a mile is even better. But there's so many good ones within a mile. And there's a lot of I hate to say it, but downtown Richmond has wonderful, wonderful taquerias, and it's just a little too far from the Bay Trail. I did find a good Richmond taqueria on Cutting Way that is within a mile, but we are leaving some really good taquerias on the table, unfortunately. So I think this is going to be a fun, interactive activity for all of us and the kind of thing we want to do more of on this show. So we are getting close to the end of the hour, and we're going to play Happy Trails and then move on to the Q&A and comment section where you guys can unmute and we can really make this much more of an interactive discussion. So let's hear from Jason Myers in our theme song.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds if we're together? Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Until we meet again.
So that's the official show, but let's get into the after show is always the best part anyway. And I know many of you, I especially want to hear from other members of the walking group. So I'm going to make it so you guys are allowed to unmute yourselves. I would ask that people raise hands. The exception for that will be Paco. Paco is the person who's attended the most Bay Trail Confidentials aside from me and Ethel. Paco, what did you think of tonight's show?
This is so brilliant.
Thank you, Paco. You were too kind.
I actually kept on reading this flashcards too, like at night.
Yeah, Paco had a birthday very recently, and he was awarded a set of Bay Trail map cards for his birthday. So happy birthday,
Happy
Paco.
birthday.
Thanks so much, everyone. But it's Christmas is coming up too, Rodney.
That's right. Maybe we'll have to get you some Ridge Trail cards.
Yeah. And I hope Richie is back from Portugal.
Richie Unterberger, our rock historian friend. He's in Portugal. That's right. Thanks, Paco. First of all, let me first ask the members of the walking group. I wanted to hear the story about San Quentin, because I understand that San Quentin was sort of in the way of your guidelines. So Sally, Barb.
Yeah, well, we tried to stay, one of our guidelines is to stay as close to the bay as possible. And it looked like the Bay Trail actually went through San Quentin. And my husband and I went to a museum there, not, years ago. I thought, hey, maybe there's a public access there. So we thought we'd go, walk through the prison. But then I think smarter, wiser minds prevailed, and we walked around the prison. But I still had this, Sally and I still had this gnawing, maybe if we made arrangements in advance or something, we could get down close to the prison. So as we came out the other side, we asked one of the guards, he's very, very stern. And we asked him, very cute, very stern. We asked him if we could have
And young, very young.
if he could have gone through the prison, because we're trying to stay as close to the bay as possible. And he just looked at us and he said, this is a federal prison, ladies, Man, it was really, we took a picture. He let us take a picture with him though. So,
well, I'm hoping Bay Trail Confidential gets a little more clout, and we can like make this happen for you sometime in the future.
This is a serious project
right
here.
That part on the highway, there was a lot of concern because it was before they put up the barriers that are there now, and so we were really walking on that highway that goes over to Sir Francis Drake, and it was probably one of the more, close to high-speed cars areas.
Right.
So we were kind of trying to avoid that too. We wanted to go, on that little road that goes through the prison, and it's on Google Maps. So, we knew there was a road through there.
I was pretty terrified during that part. If I
remember,
wasn't
Sally.
with them, I wouldn't have done it.
I have biked up to the gate, but I didn't have the nerve to ask. You guys are, I give you a lot of credit for that.
Well, it really looks like you go
tell
through.
tell them about the quarry, because that's a good story too.
Yeah, let's hear about that. That's a quarry that's near McNair Beach, right?
So we got to the end of that park because we had to hike down to get into McNair's Beach, and then we got to the end and there was a fence, and we were like, I don't know, but of course we had to go around or under, or I don't remember what, and check it out. So we went under there and we got up, and I had lived in Marin, most of my childhood, and I had no idea there was this huge quarry. I mean, it must be like 200 feet deep. We just couldn't believe it. And so we walked through the quarry and then over the fence on the other end. I mean, that was the advantage of Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
Was that, most of the time there weren't many people around and they didn't care that much about work. And we were also a bunch of women, older women.
That was an advantage, actually.
They figured we just played dumb. We were like, oh.
Like the time that we went through the controversial space that Barb, where you said, oh, tell them that story. That's a funny story.
Yeah, well, we were walking underneath, what bridge was that? Carquinez Bridge?
Carquinez Bridge, yeah.
Yeah, we got into this, was an old cement, you helped me out, Aleta, because you wrote about it, the cement factory or whatever, and we could figure we could kind of get around the fence. We went around one side, no trespassing signs, but we got on the other side, this woman came out with dogs, and she was obviously the caretaker, and said, you can't come in here, you can't get through. And Dina, you was also with us there. And she, I basically tried to just say, well, we weren't threatening, or just nice. Can we just get through here? And I explained on the map that it would be very hard to do without, I guess Rodney's showing you where it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
It'd be very hard to do without.
It's by the Maritime Museum, past the Maritime Museum.
Yeah, so she lightened up and she took us under her wing, and she took us through the whole cement factory and out the other side and let us out through another gate. It was really cool.
Yeah, and I want to point out that the quarry we were talking about is around here, and it's going to eventually be Bay Trail, but right now it's a quarry.
You can really see it when you're on the ferry. If you're on any ferry going by there, like the Vallejo ferry to San Francisco, you can see that quarry from the water. It's quite gigantic.
And Barb's sister is a pilot, and she told us she'd always seen it flying over. She flies for Southwest, and so she knew about it, but. If you don't go in those fences, you don't really know it's there.
I want to read, there's a couple of interesting things in chat relating to what you guys have been talking about. And then I want to call on Adina. But Sherry Rosenberg is saying that San Quentin is scheduled to close in June of 2022.
What?
And if that's true, that's exciting news for the
That,
Bay
the
Trail
Bay Trail's
nuts.
coming through.
Yeah, I think that would be wonderful.
Especially if the prisoners have a better situation too. I mean, not that you could get a better view maybe, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that prison is.
They also have some wonderful art and things, services there, which I hope they'll have at other places.
And
but-
school and classes and.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
amazing. But the reason I looked it up, someone said federal, but I thought it was state. It is
It's
state.
state,
But
yeah.
then there was this question. This is just a Google thing, so I don't know if it's true or not. But that's what I just saw.
I just want to point out, Ross was talking about windsurfing near San Quentin and worrying about being blown ashore in some kind of awkward place, right? So that's
Yeah,
interesting.
right.
But let's call in Adina. Adina, you were part of the walking group too, weren't you?
Yes.
So go ahead.
You need to unmute.
I think she's muted.
Yeah, go ahead, Adina. Oh, you can
Can you
unmute, right?
unmute
Oh,
her?
you have to unmute her.
I do. I think. Well, let me check. Hold
I
on a
think
second.
so.
I will do that.
I had gone to another. I had gone to
she's
another,
unmuted.
I didn't see my mute, but
Oh, Adina,
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
some of what I was going to say, other people already said. Where the lady came out with the dogs, I think that was an old mill.
Bill,
Um,
okay.
I'm pretty sure it was an old flour mill. There used to be, every community in the country pretty much had its own mill. And what was the name? I'm drawing up Skaggs Island. That Skaggs Island was a highlight for me. And
Skaggs
that
Island
was,
That was
is
another
around
place
here.
we weren't supposed to
that
be.
was
Talked
another
about
place
that.
we
Oh,
went
it's
on a
this
Sunday
area.
morning where we took advantage of being unthreatening old ladies and took our chances trespassing through there.
See,
Where
this is
is it?
unfair. This is like, because I tried to bike through there and then I saw some car coming towards me and I just kind of chickened out
Yeah.
and made a run for it.
Yeah.
I had a feeling I wasn't supposed to be there. But yeah,
You were.
Skaggs Island is up here and it is like this line looks like it's Bay Trail, but it's actually a dotted green line that is going to eventually be Bay Trail. So you guys are like sneak previewing a lot of parts of the Bay Trail.
There were a lot
Well-
of places that we went where it was dotted, that we tried, but there were a few where we couldn't get across like a bridge. There was no way across waterways, so we'd have to backtrack.
And Adina, you wanted to add something?
No, just that we were committed to completely circumnavigating, and I think there was only one time that I can think of that we had to give up, and that was crossing the marsh. It was just too dangerous to walk on the side of the road.
At
in the north.
37.
Highway
Across-
37.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Across
there
37.
was-
We just couldn't do that, but everywhere else by hook or crook, we foraged our way.
It's actually legal to ride a bike on Highway 37. If you wanted to
Oh.
do it, you could
But
do
not
it. But there
But
was
what
no
about walk?
way. There was no way.
No.
When I did my ride around the bay, I said, "There's absolutely no way I'll do that." And I
Thank you.
rode from Sonoma to Petaluma. I rode from Napa to Petaluma, actually.
Mhm.
There's another comment in chat from Arlene. I really appreciated you pointing this out, that the opening for that pedestrian bicycle bridge in Emeryville will be this Friday, starting at
Oh.
5:30 p.m. And it's a I think it's going to be a very well received bridge and very useful for bicyclists and hopefully for hikers too. I mean, you'll be able to like hike around that part of Emeryville and then cross over and go to the Bay Bridge.
So just,
Go
so
ahead, Sally.
David asked a question, if we went under the Hetchy Aqueduct south of the Dumbarton Bridge before the new Ravenwood Bridge was completed. Does anybody know the answer to
Yeah,
that?
we did. I think we did.
Oh, is that?
I didn't know that was the hedge. I wondered about that. That was the black pipe. We have a picture.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
think.
find it.
Oh, yeah, we climbed over that black pipe, under the black pipe.
Yeah. I didn't realize that was the Hetchy.
There, yeah.
Aqueduct. There it is,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
And there
you
was
got
another one we went over, which was another pipe.
It's a good thing
Yeah.
you guys
I
aren't
think
bad
going
actors, you know.
Going under the bridges was a pretty challenging part, except for the Dumbarton Bridge was easy, but the other bridges were a little
Oh, Carquina.
dicey. The Carquinez Bridge, the Benicia Bridge.
So, I wanted to mention the Dotson Family March because
Yes.
that's one of, on the map, it was a dotted green line, and we were already ahead of time thinking, how are we going to get through here? What are we going to do? Because it's a marsh. We'll probably have to walk down the railroad tracks. And it had just opened. And if anybody has not gone there, it's like really a beautiful, beautiful area. It's just south of Point Pinole, and you can actually park there and then walk into Point Pinole from the south, and it's gorgeous. And there's lots of bird activity. We go there. My family goes there all the time now.
And it has really amazing history too.
Yes.
Of
Yeah.
the Dotson family.
The Dotson family.
Yes.
They were. Yeah. It's one of my favorite places too. And you know, it's really this African-American family that led their community to advocate for the saving of this place.
Yeah. And we all benefit from it still today.
Well, it's a really important connector to Point Pinole from you know, like kind of North Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to build a really pretty intense bridge there. I mean, that was, you know, a pretty good construction project, I'm assuming, to build that bridge.
Oh, yeah.
I actually interviewed Whitney Dotson and his mother before she passed away. I wrote an article about their family for the Los Angeles Times years ago. And his mom really was the highlight. I mean, I loved Whitney Dotson. He was fabulous, but his mom was amazing. She came here during the Black migration a long, long time ago. And she talked about going out to the marsh and gathering the greens that she would get. It was an amazing, it was an amazing interview. And Whitney said to me afterwards, he goes, you know, that was, you pretty much wrote about my mom. And I was like, well, yeah.
If we can get the link to that article, is that also online?
Yeah, I can send it to you.
Yeah, I'll put that on my website. I would love to see that. I think we should, you know, we have so many places that we should do a show on, but I would love to do a show on the Dotson Family Marsh.
Okay, sure.
One of my favorite places. There was a clarification in chat that maybe San Quentin actually is not closing. So you know, I don't want to be the purveyor of news that turns out not to be true. Chris says that Susanville, California is closing, not San Quentin. And maybe San Quentin could be closing in the future. So that's too bad, but kind of, we don't get to decide that here at Bay Trail Confidential. Sally, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask Adina if she remembered and could comment on the town that was sinking that we went by. Do you remember what I'm talking about, Adina?
It's not El Viso?
Yes.
Yes.
El Viso, Sally.
Yeah.
Rodney did one of his shows focused on El Viso a few months ago.
That was
one of my favorite places.
And
Yeah, we
Adina,
love that
as
place.
was mentioned, is sort of our de facto historian. So she's the one who we would go past things and be saying, what's that? Why is this here? And she would end up researching it and sending us all this information and sometimes ahead of time. And so that was really wonderful to learn about that, because I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, and the town is, there's a town called Drawbridge, which is abandoned now. It's a ghost town. We are going to be doing a show on the wildlife refuge down there, the Don Edwards Wildlife Refuge.
Oh yeah,
that's in the works. I'm already talking to them. I think we might be doing that in February, which is an ideal time.
Like all those different sections, right? Isn't that one that has multiple?
It is very big, but it includes that area.
it's like 8,500 acres or something, and it has like 15 islands, right? I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, and it's very rich in bird life. So we thought it would be an ideal thing to talk about as the bird migration continues.
Yeah.
So stay tuned to Bay Trail Confidential for that. Other questions or comments for our guests, or about anything related to what we talked about tonight? I wanted to say, I, really, really loved having you guys as guests. I was very honored to be able to walk with you. And I think what you did was really, really great. And as I said at the beginning, we are in the presence of Bay Trail cred giants.
And it was all for fun. It was all for fun.
It was just an adventure. Yep.
Someone's asking me privately about the photo contest. We have not been getting a lot of entries for the photo contest. I would love to revive it. We're going to do January contest is going to be breweries and taquerias again. That'll be the last time we do that, but we're going to give you guys another shot to identify more breweries and taquerias. I would love photos of taquerias. I'm pretty nuts about taquerias right now. You can ask my wife about it. I come home and I'm just like, oh man, I had this pollo asado you wouldn't believe. So
check out the Taco Chronicles on Netflix. There's that's pretty cool.
So I realize this is maybe well-trodden territory, but not when you focus on near the Bay Trail. That belongs to us. And I'm sure that we're going to find at least 100 taquerias on or near the Bay Trail. Other thoughts? I think we're gonna have to have you guys back again and talk about more of your adventures. Where there's like I just love the guiding principles that you use to go around the Bay. I personally like the fact that you kind of push some boundaries. I think I've wanted to do that. You went to places that I've dreamed of going to. Maybe one of you is gonna have to provide some bail money to me when I.
Yeah,
I wondered if any of the people, if any of the others that walked with us that had anything, like Amanda or Michelle, I saw them on earlier, if they had anything they wanted to add that we haven't heard, because it really, and Diane, Jana.
Yeah, anybody else want to jump in with a story or thought? And yeah, we've seen some really interesting stuff in chat. We're not going to be able to get to it all, but I do like, there's talk about like, what kind of adventure could you have walking the Bay Trail? Maybe that's the way to circumnavigate with my public transit option. You go all the way around the Bay. You're going to have to do a pretty long walk in the North Bay because there's not good public transit in the North Bay. Sorry, North Bay people, but that's a fact. So on foot, it's a pretty long way to get from. You have to go all the way from Napa to Sonoma, and once you get to Sonoma, there are buses that you could take. So it would probably be a multi-day thing, but that's not a bad idea. There's a question: do you guys have a GPS log of all your hikes? I don't think you do, but I thought it was fun that we came up with this map that we showed showing what you guys had done. Let me see if I can find it. What you guys did
Year to year.
Year to year.
Yeah, I have
Give me a second, I'll pull
46
that up.
emails that say where we stopped and started, but I don't think I want to go back over those emails and figure it out.
Let's see, it's right here. It is. So, yep, pretty cool. Pretty cool. I did mine in 7 days, but I think you guys had more fun. I did, one of my takeaways from my bike ride around the Bay was
we had different fun.
Different fun,
Different
not
fun.
more.
And I did find like the slower you go, the richer the experience. And I told the story about my my reaction to an insect bite that put me in the ER on my bike ride around the Bay. And I kind of later thought that bee was doing me a favor because it slowed me down, and I got to see. The next day I went to the Coyote Hills Regional Park, which is like one of the greatest places on the Bay, if you ask me. And I wasn't in a hurry when I went through it.
I agree. That's a great place.
Beautiful.
Definitely one I'd go back to. One other one I'd like to mention is the Pickleweed Park in the canal in San Rafael. And I think it's a place that, I lived up there when I was growing up and I'd never been there. And it's a very cool park. There's a lot like that you just find places that you think I think someone mentioned that earlier, and then you're like, wow, this is a whole different place than I imagined.
Well, I know it's a women's walking group, but I do hope I get a chance to walk with you guys someday in the future. Maybe have a special,
We'll let
special,
men.
special version that, that we could join you guys because it was a lot of fun.
We were glad to have you.
Yeah, we enjoyed having
Yeah.
you, Rod.
Yep.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show, and we'll be looking forward to getting everyone back next month. It'll be January 5th, and we're going to be talking about the Middle Harbor Shoreline Park, which is in the middle of the Port of Oakland, and we're going to learn a lot of interesting things about the history of the port, how that park got created, some future plans that are kind of reaching fruition soon, I think.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, there's
The
some,
birds, right? There's so many birds at that park. At
Yeah.
least my
It's-
It's a
experience.
beautiful, it's so full of potential there. It's beautiful.
yeah. So that's what we'll be talking about next month. In the meantime, I want to wish everybody happy holidays. Please stay safe as this, whatever happens. Let's, get vaccinated, wear a mask, do whatever you got to do to stay safe. And we'll look forward to having you guys back here in a month for our next Bay Trail Confidential. But we'll sign off. So thanks, everybody.
Thank
And
you.
thanks again to
Thanks,
my guests,
Okay,
Rodney.
thanks, everyone.
I will
Barb,
see
Annette,
you
everyone.
on,
Bye.
Sally.
our
Bye.
Next
Hey,
time.
thank you.
Rodney.
Good night.
Bye.
Yay,
Good
see you
night.
guys.
That's nice. See you in an art viewing adventures, Rodney.
Yeah, I'll see you. When's the next one? A week from Monday.
Yeah.
And,
Along with Richie's program.
Richie, I don't know. Do you know what he's doing that night? He's doing something interesting. Maybe Joni Mitchell again, or
He's actually on the 13th. He's gonna, Johnny Mitchell. On the
Joni
13th,
Mitchell. Very good.
Rodney.
Okay,
Yeah.
Paco, great seeing
And
you.
your art viewing also with Joan Mitchell too.
Joan Mitchell, that's true. That's hilarious. We're doing Joan Mitchell. He's doing Joni Mitchell.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that Joan Mitchell, Joni Mitchell
And
actually
Joni.
also paints, but it's not Joni Mitchell, it's Joan Mitchell. Okay,
Nikki's
Barb,
gonna be there
Annette,
too.
Sally,
I
thank
hope.
you. And David,
Okay.
congratulations. David, I'll send you an email. I need to get get a mailing address to send you your Bay Trail map cards. Really appreciated. That's a tremendous help getting all those taquerias and winery and breweries. Enjoy those cards, Paco.
Thanks so much, Rodney.
Okay,
for
signing
this
off.
trail.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. See you.
Bye.
Next month.
Good
Bye.
night. Have a great
Take care,
evening.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a great evening, everyone.